Let's go back to one of our top stories this afternoon. AfriForum will be in court tomorrow to oppose former President Jacob Zuma's appeal against the ruling that has set aside his medical parole. Zuma's lawyers are expected to argue for his leave to appeal the ruling which declared his medical parole was unlawful. The High Court in Pretoria last week ordered that Zuma should return to jail. It ruled that he should continue to serve his 15-month sentence for contempt of court. AfriForum's Ernst joins me now to tell us why they are opposing Zuma's application for leave to appeal in this matter. Mr. Roets, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. What are your main reasons for opposing this application for leave to appeal by Jacob Zuma?
Well, thank you very much. So the matter has been heard by the court. There was a proper ruling that was handed down last week, and it was thoroughly argued and it was thoroughly explained. And we believe that it's quite clear. It was quite clear from the get-go that medical parole should not have been granted, which is what we argued in court, that it was unlawful. The decision was unlawful to grant medical parole. And this is what the court found last week. And we believe that there's no reasonable prospect that an appeal would succeed. We believe that it's quite clear what happened and that the decision was unlawful. And in other words, that it would simply be a waste of resources and of time to continue with this matter as it is.
A court has ruled, but you can appeal against that, and you're within your rights. I guess Jacob Zuma and his lawyers are within their rights to appeal it.
Yeah, well, you can appeal a ruling, but you can also oppose an application to appeal. So we are obviously within our rights as well. The fact of the matter is that you cannot simply appeal any ruling. You can try to appeal any ruling, but you won't succeed in an application for appeal against simply any ruling, because the courts have to look at it, and the courts have to see, one of the things they have to look at is whether there's reasonable grounds for success. Is it not, if the case is so clear-cut and so obvious, that an appeal would just be a waste of time and resources, then it's reasonable for a court to say that the appeal is not going to be heard because it's going to be a waste of time. And that is what we believe the situation is currently.
Why do you maintain it's going to be a waste of time? Shouldn't the court make up its mind?
Well, the court, that's the point. The court has made up its mind. Last week, there was proper arguments before the court. There was a proper ruling that was handed down. It was argued. It was several pages, and there was a proper explanation as to what the requirements are for medical parole to be granted, what the criteria are to be able to get medical parole, how this decision should be taken, how these criteria were not complied with. In other words, then the conclusion was that this decision to grant medical parole was unlawful and it shouldn't have been granted. So the court has applied its mind already. And there's a certain point where it becomes just an exercise of trying to postpone the inevitable, and that is what we believe is happening here, that Mr. Zuma and his legal team are just trying to postpone the matter as long as they can and stretch it out as long as they can to prevent justice from being served in this matter.
The Department of Correctional Services itself has said it is also going to be appealing applying for a leave to appeal against this ruling. They are the ones in the first place, through their former head, Arthur Fraser, that gave Jacob Zuma the medical parole. What's your view as AfriForum about the decision of the Correctional Services Department to also apply for leave to appeal in this matter?
Well, we believe that if they want to file an application for leave to appeal, it's within their right to do so. We've heard that the two matters will be combined. They will both be heard tomorrow, which is, as far as we are concerned, good news, because then it doesn't delay or stretch out the process unnecessarily. So we think it's good that the two cases be heard as one, which will happen tomorrow.
Okay, we are told by the J.G. Zuma Foundation that because he is unwell and because the Department of Correctional Services has said that they cannot provide him with all the medical care that he requires, which he's getting from his doctors, including the doctors from the military, sending him back to jail to continue the 15-month jail sentence for contempt of court is tantamount to a death sentence. How would you argue in court tomorrow against such a point that's been made publicly already?
Yes, well, the fact of the matter is that there are thousands of people in prison in South Africa, and that people get sick all the time. So the fact that you are sick is not sufficient to claim that you have a right to parole to get out of prison. You have to be so sick, you have to be terminally ill or so sick that it's not possible for the system to be able to deal with, to be able to treat you. While there are medical facilities and so forth in prison. So we can debate the actual medical condition of Mr. Zuma and debate the true extent of how sick is he really. Obviously, there's a very significant suspicion that he and his legal team are exaggerating the extent of his illness to try to make sure that he doesn't go to prison. But that, in a way, it's almost irrelevant. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the Medical Parole Council has looked into this, and they have said, based on his medical condition, he should not be granted medical parole. So that it has been looked into, and there was already a decision in this matter.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Ernst Roets from AfriForum, he's head of policy and action. Tomorrow they'll be in court to oppose the application for leave to appeal by Jacob Zuma's lawyers against the ruling that was made by the Pretoria High Court last week, setting aside his medical parole as unlawful.